Welcome to the gist. The gist. You all know what it is. When it comes to life, love, and the pursuit of happiness, sometimes you just need a moment to get your shit together.
Come on now.
So do we.
Yes,
Lord. So do we. I'm so excited tonight. I'm Kay Bellamy, your host, and my co-host, Stephanie Hamilton and Valerie Cannon. And guess who else we have hanging with us tonight? Hi. None other than CC McGee. Oh my God. I am so happy that you're here. And we got one more guest that's coming on to hang out with us tonight, too.
Oh, this is awesome.
Let me just go ahead.
Who is it? Where they at?
We love surprises, right?
Yes. And so we also have Derisha Miller.
Derisha!
Oh my God. So
I'm gonna help you out, Kay. You know, reading is fundamental. So I did sign in as Derisha K. Parker. There was no Miller. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah.
That's how we started. Let's get started.
Get it right. Get it right.
Listen, I still have Valerie, and listen, I paused because I still have her in my phone as Valerie Bevan. So I mean,
I still am.
Right. This is all I'm saying, Val.
That's why I love y'all.
Like, listen,
Right.
that don't change for me. I get it. State Rep Derisha K. Parker in the building. Yes. Appreciate you being here, girl. So,
I don't like that.
She has time for us little people. That's so
right. Hey, don't you start that nonsense with me. You know I'm still Derisha. Don't even do it, see?
Okay. Here's what I have to say. Stephanie,
yes.
It's me and you, boo. It's me and you. Because all these married folks and stuff that's happening right here, I'm not gonna mess with you.
It's not even that kind of conversation tonight. So it's
always that conversation.
And hold up. Ain't nobody made no song about them. Beyonce made a song about us. So I ain't worried about them right there.
But don't say that Beyonce got a ring on it. So stop that.
Come on now. That's right. She made the song, but she got the ring on it.
What you say Beyonce for?
Because she collecting everybody's money.
Right.
All right. So as we jump into the conversation tonight, that we are all aware of now, that the conversation is about pregnant women who are incarcerated. And while there are no policies currently for, incarcerated pregnant women to give birth, there's no policy around that as we speak right now today.
Correct.
So, but however, some states have what they call prison nurseries, where women who are incarcerated come in, they get convicted and go right from the courtroom into the prison system, and they're pregnant at the time, which means that at some point, depending on how long they stay in there, they're giving birth to their children in prison. Yeah. But here's the twist to that, is that they have now incorporated, because every medical professional and every psychologist and psychiatrist will say the cognitive years for a mother to bond with their child is between birth and the age of 3. And so they've developed now what they're calling the prison nurseries, where mothers will have access to their children, to their babies, all the way, could possibly be up to the age of 3, and have them inside these prison nurseries. And also, if they have, if they're at a halfway house, they could possibly have their children. They can have their children at the halfway house or the rehab center. You can have your babies inside these facilities. I feel some type of way about that, one, and we'll get into this at some point as to why, who's behind this, who owns prisons, like who, and listen, when you find out the big name companies, the big box stores, the private owners of prisons, you will be appalled. You'll be appalled.
No, you won't.
And not from a perspective, because business is business in this world. We all know that.
Exactly.
However, how do we feel about prison nurseries or women who are incarcerated being able to raise their children up to the age of 3 within the prison system, whether it's a halfway house, whether it's a rehab center, whether it's the prison itself? How do we feel about that?
I think you got to start off before 2021, 2020, probably 2019. I mean, before all of us were privy to what COVID was. So I think my conversation, in my opinion, about women incarcerated, giving birth before I knew about COVID, my position would be extremely different. Especially now with things rising. I'm thinking of myself. I was supposed to be attending a policy hearing tomorrow. I'm still going, but now all of us have to wear masks the entire time. And it's like all these like red alerts on how we move.
Yeah.
So I'm more concerned with both of these individuals for the pregnancy of the mother and the fact of the child and how individuals contacting the mother and the care. Like we're in waters right now that we don't have the answers. I'm in front of you on a social media platform. There's things that I recently have found out that I'm more scared now than before. So I mean, but honestly, Kay, I'm not condemning any woman who's pregnant. We should be able, as me sitting as a legislator, this mother should have that time with her baby, her birth, and all of this prenatal care, aftercare, and all of that. How do I safely do it? I'm really struggling with. I'm more fearful of both parties right now. How do we collectively as African American women, because we know it's affecting us with our high infant mortality rate and everything else. Hell, the way they even tried to administer tampons and sanitary napkins to our sisters in who's incarcerated. It's the inhumane way they treat our sisters who are incarcerated. Now, and then to add on the pregnancy, like I just need, for me, okay, we got to unpack it a little bit differently. I think you need to do a part 2 and bring some mental health and some nurses to pretty much educate us before I make one of my earth-shattering types opinions.
Well,
I'm kind of like
within the prison system, they use doulas through this process,
Right?
And so they're making them available. However, the process, like you said, the treatment of how it goes. But I'll pause there and let somebody else respond to that.
Yeah, I wanted to say, because as I like to do, I started doing a little research before we even came on today. So let me, kind of educate myself about this, because I didn't really know anything about it. And what I found is that prison nurseries aren't new, but they are rare if you talk about all of our states, because there's only 8 states right now that have prison nurseries. The oldest prison nursery is in New York. Bedford Hills has had one since 1901. And what it looks like to me is a system that has tried to address a need that it's ill-equipped to address.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's a prison. And as you mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, Kay, there really aren't any rules in prisons for how they deal with pregnant women. Like, for example, when in reading the articles I did that I used to kind of educate myself, and it talked about, one of the women who they put shackles on her to go out to the hospital. And they had just come down with a rule that said, okay, because when inmates are leaving the facility, they're supposed to be in shackles. But they had passed a rule that said if you're leaving to go deliver a baby, you don't have to. But because it was kind of like Juneteenth up in there, nobody seemed to know about this. So this woman was in shackles on her way in labor. So there's no rules for it. So I think what you have is some states that have tried to address an issue they can't really address. And then one of the things that Minnesota is doing, because Minnesota has never done the prison nursery, but they're the ones who come down with this, Healthy Start Act, where women can apply for early release and go into halfway houses or, other community resources to be with their babies, as opposed to being in prison. Because, the majority of states don't think the prison nursery model is a good thing. So it is. I'm with Dorisha. It is kind of hard to, really make a judgment on, what do you think about it? Because you got to think these states that are doing it for some reason, because the population of female inmates has been on the rise since the 20th century.
Yeah.
4% of inmates in state prisons are female, 3% in federal prisons are female. So it's rising. And there's a lot of them who end up being who are pregnant when they get admitted. Actually, I think I got that backwards, but whatever. So because female inmates are on the rise, they had to, some of these states are thinking, okay, we got to do something to address these women coming into our prisons that are pregnant. So,
right. So go ahead, Stephanie.
I was like, part of the problem I think that we have here is we're trying to find a perfect answer for a very imperfect situation.
Right.
Okay. We want what's best for women. And, of course, you want a healthy pregnancy. You want a pregnancy that is healthy for the mother and baby. Okay. That's a hard stop. Okay. Then we have what happens after the pregnancy. It's a complicated situation because, yes, I think a mother should have her baby. The baby should be with his or her mother. The problem is the mother is in prison. And I have a real issue with Black and brown babies being raised in a prison. That is not a normal environment. And just like we have children who've had to be removed from houses by social services because it's an unhealthy environment,
absolutely,
I do not see any condition where a federal or state prison is healthy for a child to be raised in. Again, who are the guards? Their auntie and uncle? Who are the other inmates? It's so complicated. Now, if we're talking about if you've transitioned mom to a living facility, like a house, you think of a halfway house. I think they've evolved from what they used to be, but they're you have living quarters and bedrooms, and I think that's different because you're transitioning her to a real living environment.
Right.
But a prison, I don't see the situation or the circumstance where that's going to be totally healthy for a child. I just don't see it.
CC, what are your thoughts?
I was really torn about this until I started doing more research. And I agree, we need to have a policy. Number one, the women don't get the best care in prison as it is, okay?
Exactly.
You want to bring a baby into this situation. And they have all these studies out here. This one study, preschool outcomes of children who lived as infants in a prison nursery. They're saying that these kids come out without, they have lower rates of depression and anxiety because they bonded with the mother. However, look at the environment. Okay, it's this nursery over here. Some states that have this program, some have violent, offenders, some are not. So if I'm in a nursery breastfeeding my baby and something pops off, is that a good environment for my baby? You have to listen to those conversations. Now, the women go into this program knowing that, it's kind of like 3 strikes. Maybe not, because we don't have a policy. But if you go in there and you start coming at another woman because, it's already a tense environment anyway. So it really bothers me that let's get the women straight first with great care. And then maybe we can talk about more policies for these babies. Now, I get these studies, how, some are saying that, when kids get into preschool, being with their mom is very important. I'm a mom. I love that bonding. But I have to look at the environment because we're talking about prison. Everybody in prison in those nurseries they're different. Some are angry. The environment is tense, and babies can pick up on that. So I have a major problem with the environment. I do.
And I think that is the bigger issue for everyone is the babies. I get it. Those are the cognitive years. I understand. However, your baby can bond with somebody that has a way more positive environment until you get your shit together.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody can bond with that child and give them a more positive experience during those crucial years. I understand the human part of it. That's my child. I birthed that child into the world, and there is a connection there. Absolutely. But if you show that baby early on something else, they will connect as well. Might not be able to breastfeed them. You might not be able to do those things you could do as a parent, but you can still give that child a more positive, impact.
Yeah.
Because like we all just said, there's no way you can put a child in that environment and it not impact them some way, somehow. And not to mention, those children will believe that this is the environment they belong in.
Mm-hmm.
And so you place them in there because those are those cognitive years. They will grasp on to everything that's happening within that environment.
Absolutely.
Based on what you were saying
there. Now, the real challenge becomes the why.
Mm-hmm.
Why? And listen, Val, shared this yesterday when I was talking to her. Foster care and all of these places, these social services that take children when their parents are when they give them up for adoption or they're put in the system. That system is probably overflowing to the point where you just don't even know what else to do with all of these babies running around with no solid foundation anywhere.
Sure.
So I get it that somebody must have thought to themselves, well, maybe a better plan is to just keep them with their mom. And because you know what, some foster care environments can be probably worse than prison.
Yeah, that's true.
They
Can be worse than prison. But at least in the social services environment or the foster care, at least you have somebody that's coming in to chat on a regular basis to make sure. And if they see something, they may say something.
Right.
However, my question goes back to why. Why is it that states would like to see our children in these environments?
Let's be real clear. That's dollars and cents.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be real
Body
clear.
commodities. I keep saying it. Body commodities.
And I share that with everybody and why they keep talking about the prison, the pipeline, and why our criminal justice system is the way it is. Let's be real clear. Black men, they can't make any money off your ass when you in the streets. They make more money when you incarcerated. And not just you, Pookie, Man, Mercedes, Beamer, Justice, all of y'all in a whole family. They know how much money is going to go. You know what? Well, let me just talk to y'all about this. There is a whole industry. We talk about accountants, lawyers, food services, prep, security. All of these is from this one person getting incarcerated. So when you talk about Pennsylvania and how conservative it is, they still about dollars and cents.
Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely. The sad thing to sit from me is the fact that I'm sitting as a legislator and just left a roundtable conversation with my colleagues. Not near one of their asses put this conversation up. Why should I have to hear it from a Black woman who is not even elected? Kay brought this to my attention. Now, if Kay didn't bring this to my attention, would I have known? Yes, but I'm saying based on what you're saying, Kay, why isn't my inbox filled with women who are incarcerated sharing what you guys are sharing tonight? See, that's the part that I get upset about. Right. If they want me to be the one vote to talk about and advocate for an issue, where are the Black women at? Where are the Black parents? Where are the all these other churches, the Muslim, where are the mosques? I have not heard none of them talk about anything that has to relate it to a woman being pregnant and being incarcerated.
I think part of the problem, Dorisha, is that they try to wrap this around this lovely language, healthy starts. Right? It sounds like this is good for mom. It's good. Who would be against a baby being with their mother? At the end of the day, this is Black and brown children, and we're creating, or they are attempting to create this normal where being raised in a facility is the right thing to do. We can't even trust the prison system to handle men and women who are in there. We want to have overcharge of babies.
Exactly.
No. My thing is, do you want to get them started early? The bottom line, you want them in there anyway. You want them to start getting used to this environment early so they desire to come back. I'm just saying, because those years are so formative. So you got these babies in prisons for something that their mothers did. I'm not judging. I'm just saying they did that, not the kids. And I feel like the kids have to suffer whether they're in prison with their moms or not. So my thing is like, which one is the worst of the two evils?
But not only that, you have situations where when that college scandal went down, or when you see these scandals happen where these couples go to prison, and they allow one to go and the other one to stay home and
Right.
take care of the kids until the other one get out, and then that one goes in because the other one comes home so that they can take care of the kids. My question is, one, if you're going to pass these kind of acts and laws, where are the fathers? Are you allowing that shit to happen in the prison with the daddy? Does he get the baby on the weekends in his prison, and then you get him during the week on your, like, well, you in prison? What is the strategy here? And that is the thing that bothers me the most, because they do not care. At the end of the day, they do not care about us as a people, us as a race, and they do not give a shit about our children.
But the mere fact that you brought it up, the mere fact that you bring it up,
all of these things should, like, this should be something that is at the forefront, because that article that was sent just came out the beginning of August. And while prison nurseries are not new, we did not know it was going down to that level.
No,
exactly.
We did not know.
No.
And
Not
so everything they talk about, when they talk about this whole article and this whole situation about pregnant women incarcerated and their children, it is people of color.
That's all I see in all of these articles. That's all I see. Everyone,
not just people of color, poor women.
Exactly.
Poor women, Black and
Exactly.
brown women, or who are impacted by this.
But she hit it. She knocked it out the box. And the thing that I love is then I can always bring it back home. Every 6 months, there's a damn election. So we're having a conversation about incarceration. Did y'all realize that there were judicial candidates on the primary ballot? So now we're having a conversation in August. Some of these people is running in November. I wonder where their decision-making process is going to stand when it comes to women of color.
Absolutely.
Like, that's the part that I always share with everybody. It's not every election has a consequence. So when you're talking about the Caucasian family, of course a Caucasian family going to have a skate type of conversation, slap on the wrist. Oh, that's a bad college thing. You're going to go in, do your community service, 60 days, and then you're off. But damn, look at Jesse Jackson's kids. They served some time. So the color system is never going to be for us. Okay, it's never going to be. And that's the part that I share with everybody all the time. Everybody who's our color is not our kind. And we did not write these laws. Okay, you say this all the time. Black folks didn't write these laws. So what makes you think they are going to have a sympathetic ear for an African-American woman who comes out of poverty and she's pregnant? In their mind, they like dollar signs. So if they can figure out a way to monetize off of what we're talking about today, you and I know they'd be jumping over this. I'm not going to allow that to happen.
But also,
well, that's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. They're monetizing it as we speak. Like Stephanie talked about, the fact that you've, put it in this very flowery language. I mean, is that really? I mean, first of all, because you got to think about it. If you're talking about a program that allows women to apply for early release, well, why can't you apply for that if you're not pregnant?
Whoa!
Oh, that's a good point.
Why can't you apply for that if you're not pregnant? If you've decided that what I did is nonviolent and I don't belong in the system, why can't I do that if I'm not pregnant?
Right. So
that's
now, because listen to me, prison is big money. It's big money, and not just from the point of being paid for every inmate that stays in there every single day. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. But not only that, for companies like Walmart, McDonald's, Wendy's, Starbucks, Victoria's Secret, they use the services of these people, pay them nothing, or pay them pennies, and then turn around and take the very products that they're making and bring it to us and say, we're going to charge you 100% more.
All about money.
And you are using labor of prisoners. You're not educating them, because guess what? For most prisons, they took the law library out the goddamn prison.
They took it out.
So that you couldn't learn anything about your case. You couldn't learn whether you were done wrong. You couldn't learn if there was a law surrounding what happened to you, because they took most of them out.
You
and
also
the books
have these
that they
companies.
put in there, the books they put in those libraries are so fucking old. So old. until you can't even comprehend
What
what
to
is
talk
happening in
about.
the world today compared to what you're reading inside behind those walls.
Right. You also have these same companies who are making money off of these prisons, because every one of those prisons, those people have to be clothed, fed, there has to be supplies for them. Every piece of paper that comes through that prison is supplied by somebody. Bedding, the furniture, everything. Like you said, it's a billion-dollar business. And people are making money off of people in these prisons.
And come on, let's bring the babies in. I mean, they got to be fed. They have to be clothed. They need baby beds. So we're talking about even more money.
Right.
Absolutely. It's
even more
money.
Even a different kind of health care. Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
There it is. There it is. You didn't said it right there in a nutshell. And I think, I just think more people need to understand their value when it comes to these kind of conversations. And, you know, people say, oh, now that you're elected, I tell them to kick rocks. I've been saying this stuff way before I was elected, but we need to understand our value. One of the things me and Kay talk about is we are a bunch of Negroes that like to meet, just to meet, don't get a damn thing done.
Too busy meeting. That gets on my nerves.
And we're not making decisions, but unfortunately, just like anything else, it's always a struggle for our children. We sat the Black community as a race and as a whole in major cities allowed our education system to be snatched, burnt down, torn down, schools gone in the city, can't take your child to a public school, can't educate them. And listen, and because we have such a fear of bringing our kids into any other place or in the suburbs or any of that, we settle for anything that they put in front of us, because at the end of the day, if you as a Black woman believe, or a Black man believe, that putting your newborn child inside a prison is a healthy start act, you are delusional, and you truly need to get your shit together.
But people will counter that and say, well, you need to be educated more. You need to do more research, because we have these studies that show. No, these studies show what you wanted to show.
Exactly.
So don't give me that.
That's
it's a liberal. You're getting liberal women dictating what we're supposed to do with our family. And that ain't progressive. Don't get me started on them either. But I just want them to be real clear when we talk about, that sounds very progressive what Kay says. No, that's the truth what Kay says. It ain't progressive. It's real.
And you know what? And we really need to look at that, because it's not, it just carries from there on into adulthood. And so when we look at our young girls and we look at our young women today, and we kind of turn our head sideways or we squint our eyes because we confused about what we looking at, because either they got on a head cap or shower cap outside, or they got slippers on, or they got, you know what I mean? We kind of looking sideways like, why are they doing that?
Next show.
Right here. Why are they doing that?
Stay focused. Next show.
We just need to be mindful of that. So when we cock our head to the side thinking, did you see that? Did you see how what in the world she got on? This is what we are exposing our children to, because inside the prison, it's no holds barred. You liable to see anything. And as a child, like Stephanie said, you running around, what are you calling the guards? Aunt and uncle? Mr. Jim, we'll sell my mom in.
And now you have some of these prison nurses, they talk about the women in prison and how they start dating each other. Then when they have issues, they start these fights in the nursery. They have to be put out. You have these guards so-called listening to conversations. Then we hear of those other stories. What about the parents who are in there with mothers who are child abusers or drug users? Because you're in prison. Now you go through all these so-called screenings before you get into this nursery, but you still got a tense environment with different people around these babies.
Around a baby.
Who would even come up with the thought of a prison nursery?
Girl, white man.
Listen.
Come on, say that again.
a white man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you can get an expert to say anything you want them to say.
Absolutely.
You will find an expert that will
Absolutely.
say anything.
And he's not from
And a
this
whole
region.
lot of them.
He's all the way out in the European era, and he's Dr. So-and-so, never checked his credentials, and he dictating what we should be doing with our children.
Exactly.
But never been in a prison. No, has no connection to anybody. None of that's ever factored into his family, but he is dictating these type of policies, and people are running off with it on social media. Like, you know what you heard what Doctor said? Mm-hmm.
We talked last week or the week before about the vaccine and and how that is distributed and why people are not taking it or
right.
whatever the case might be. Mm-hmm. And when I found out that 98% or probably higher of clinical trials are done on white males,
Yep.
I was done.
Why?
Because guess what? Because at the end of the day, it's not done on white women, not black men, not black women, Asian, Hispanic, nothing. So the medications that we take every single day is based on white men and how they react to it. And so just think about that when we look at things like a prison nursery and white men being behind such an idea, trying to make us believe that it's a healthy start act. It's a good thing.
No.
We are so at a disadvantage most of the time, one, because of lack of knowledge, because they keep it from us, because they don't want us to know.
Exactly.
Because if we know, then we might react or we might do something to try to stop it.
Yeah.
But when we look at the world at things like building prison nurseries for our black and brown children, that's an absolute no. When we look at clinical trials only being based on white men, when I'm an African American woman who, if I have high blood pressure, it's going to affect me differently than a white man. But we are both taking the same medication. But it's only going to work for him. It's a crapshoot for me. If it may or may not work. And we don't know. We don't know, and we don't know the questions to even ask. So even in these situations when your daughter gets locked up, parents don't even know the questions to ask. Most of them get shipped to states they've never been in before, don't know. And if you ask their parents what prison they in, they couldn't tell you. They couldn't tell you. Because they shipped them off somewhere to these rural environments. And this is why we don't know that babies are inside these prisons being raised up to the age of 3.
Yep.
And then you hear like up to 2,000 infants are born every year in prison. But we're not hearing about this.
No, not at all.
Absolutely.
No.
Listen, this was such an amazing conversation. Anybody want to have any last words about any of it?
I think a lot of this, when you're saying knowledge is power. Yeah. And, I think when we talk about the man and saying that things are being kept on us, it's because let me just be real clear. You got African Americans right now sitting in their pajamas getting 5 different streams of income. Okay, 5. And you're saying knowledge is power. I'm calling people up saying, hey, this company is giving you $1,000 signing bonus. All you gonna do is come down. It's from 3 to 5. Oh, Rep Parker, you should have called me earlier. It's 2 o'clock. All you gotta do is from 3 to 5. They giving you $1,000 signing bonus. What do you mean call you earlier? All you gotta do is go, Rep Parker, I don't have nothing to wear. Are you dressed in that? So I hear y'all, but I'm telling you, the Negroes I'm dealing with is getting so much of abundance of cash that if they say they know me on September 7th, Kay, you don't know me because their money gonna be cut off September 8th. And I've been telling them all along, go get a job. We have never been in a situation. You got employers begging me. They's like, Rep Parker, don't send us an email on the people you want me to hire. Call me. Give me their first, last name, and telephone number. I'm hiring them on the spot.
But the problem is something you said in the beginning. It's what we learn. And we learn things like knowledge is power.
Mhm.
Knowledge is only the art of knowing. The power only comes
like that.
with what you do with
With
that
what you
knowledge.
know. Mhm.
Because if there is no action behind the knowledge or the things you know, then you have no power. You have no power. So knowledge is not power. Knowledge is just knowing. It's just knowing. But you put some action behind what you know.
Yeah.
Now you have the real power.
That's where the power comes. Yeah.
That's where the power comes.
Mhm.
And I'm more nervous for my sisters and brothers when you know government is now saying, "Oh, now run now, your stimulus money is coming." I'm like, look, we've never had government give you this much of money in a 19-month period.
Never.
And yet our prisons are still full. And now we got babies. Now we got babies in these prisons, and they're talking about raising children inside the prison system. And I tell you right now, if we have, and I don't know what to do about that, but I'm going to find out what can be done, because there are women legislators and women in politics who support this completely. I would like to know what their thought is behind that. And I believe that as a mother or as a woman, they're probably thinking the same thing. Where else are we going to send these kids? Where else are we going to put these kids? You know, and I just don't see the rationale behind creating a bill or an act or a law surrounding any of this when it comes to our children. And I just think that we have to figure out a better way to kind of deal with this issue of how mothers in prison, one would be, don't commit the goddamn crime and you won't keep going, you won't be in prison and have to deal with this.
Yeah.
However, one of the stories read was a mother who had 4 children.
Yes, that blew me away when you told me that.
All 4 of her children born in prison. And she had an attitude because they would not let her ship her breast milk because she comes from a breastfeeding family. And the child and the baby would not take the bottle. And, it broke her heart that she wasn't able to supply what her child needed.
But it ain't break your heart to stop the crime. So you
all of that is hard. Listen to me. All of that,
4 children.
If you read it or you see it, it tugs, for some people it tugs on your heart and it says, oh my God, what about the baby? But I still believe children do not belong inside the prison system.
They do not.
They do not.
I like Val's approach. I really like, because there was something that they were doing for recently where individuals had COVID symptoms based on their crimes, that they were getting early releases.
Yeah.
I like the early release type of approach in the halfway houses, so we can be building all of these abandoned houses and all these vacant lots, like build, those type of halfway houses for maternals or, for pregnancies and mothers. So they're actually in like a home environment. Now I could do a policy and something around that, Val. I could do, women for those type of lesser crimes and see how we could put some dollars here. Because those are some other jobs. We can get some mental health or whatever, case stuff you're working on. Like I could rock out with that approach because they're in a home versus the bars.
Right.
You know what I mean? I could do the halfway house type of, effect, and how, because the halfway houses are in great neighborhoods. You know what I mean? So I could circle the lobby around that.
And that's real life stuff for a child to grow up in that environment, though. And so that's so much better.
Right.
But even in a halfway house, fights break out in there too.
Oh yeah, because I watch the TV shows and stuff. They break out, they have drugs and stuff going on.
They do.
So there's a lot of work that has to be done.
I get it. But it was just,
I just think that it needs to happen before they get to the prison part of it. And I don't know how that happens. I don't know whether you put them on house arrest. I don't know whether, depending on what the crime is, but, or how far along they are in their pregnancy, they need to let these people have some dignity in bringing that baby and that child into the world, because that child had nothing to do with whatever crime.
Nothing to do with it.
And they need to have some dignity about bringing those children into the world. And then the mothers of those children need to understand and recognize, you screwed up, I get it. However, your child cannot live in this environment. You need time to get your shit together so that you can come out and be a parent to your child. And the prison system needs to do better with these reoccurrences where these
that's where they can put that money.
Exactly.
Right.
In and
Exactly.
out of these prisons, so that when they get out, they can go home and be a mother to their children.
So you're not having 4 children.
Exactly.
Yes,
so you're not having 4 children inside the prison.
Because that
to me is where the money should go.
Exactly.
And the rehabilitation while they're in there. So when they do come out, they do not take their asses back to jail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Period.
But, we talk about these advocates, these women that really supported, once again, another study was just showing that advocates are fed the information that, if we have this program, women are less likely to come back.
Right.
Well, that's not always true, as we just see here before.
Absolutely.
So the advocates are hearing that, but are they hearing this information that Kay just brought to our attention?
Right.
Like we said, you can make a study say anything.
Anything.
Thank you, Val. Thank you, Val.
That's the truth.
Listen, I can compare tsunamis to how much chocolate I eat. So I mean, if I really wanted to do it, so
We got a policy for that. Go ahead,
make a
Val.
study say anything.
This is true. This is true. But in the meantime, in between time, I just ask that we all keep these babies in prayer.
Absolutely.
Because this is horrific for any child that has to endure being born and living their first 3 years of life in a halfway house, a rehab center, a freaking prison, anywhere. Those children deserve better.
They do. They deserve a fighting chance. They do.
Yes. I love you all for real.
Love you too. Thank you guys for having me.
This is wonderful.
I appreciate Cece.
What the hell? Wait, we done?
Girl, if you
Only you, Dorisha. Only you.
What the hell we doing?
Listen,
You got me waiting all night. We done?
We already overtime.
You better give me another damn 15 minutes. Got me waiting all night. Can't even take a nap because I'm thinking I'm a miss it, and now she gonna rush me off. Just get to the meat potatoes on damn show.
listen,
This is a black person for you, man.
listen. Thank you, Dorisha and Cece,
You're
so much for
welcome.
joining us tonight. This was a great
Yes.
conversation.
Thank you
As
for the
always,
invite. I appreciate
Val
it.
and
Thanks for the
Stephanie,
invite.
you rock.
Yes, indeed.
You rock for real. And for all of you who were listening and commenting, we had so many comments, with people agreeing and people saying that yes or no, these children should not be inside these prisons. And it is all about money. So for all of you who are watching and listening to The Gist, thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. And remember, The Gist is all about when it comes to life, love, and the pursuit of happiness, sometimes you just need a moment to get your shit together.
Come on.
So do the people who own these goddamn prisons. Okay. Y'all have a good night.
Mic drop.
Y'all don't you go nowhere.
All right.